Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation reads like this. Hello, Brother Nanshi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a man who is aged 37 years old, and I want to confess that I am a ritualist and I am involved in occultic things. By the time that I came to South Africa, if someone would have given me a prophecy when I was still in Zim that in South Africa I would end up being an occultist, truly speaking, I would have refused, because when I was still back home, I was an evangelist. I wanted to become a pastor. I wanted to become a preacher, someone that can help other people, but my parents did not have the money to send me to Bible college. So I ended up becoming an evangelist, just preaching without being a pastor and bringing as many people as I could to the Lord. At the time when I became a ritualist at church, I was already a deacon. Since I was an evangelist bringing people to Christ, always preaching, then I was promoted and I was given the role of a deacon in church. When I came to South Africa, I did not even know that life was going to be so hard, so much that I would consider sacrificing my own mother simply because I was tired of being poor. Bad things happened along the way. When we were coming here to South Africa, we got into this other small vehicle, those ones that transport people from Beitbridge into Messina. We were so happy and we thanked the Lord because our car in which we were in that was supposed to bring us to Messina from Beitbridge, it was never stopped on the Zimbabwean border as well, on the South African border. We were not even stopped by the police, and we were so happy, and we were thanking the Lord, saying, God, you are so great, because we did not even have any passports at all. We were just using faith to come to South Africa. When we were close to the taxi rank in Messina, because the route that we wanted to take, someone we knew how the N1 is was like, do not use the N1 going to Joburg because it can be risky. So we would go through Giyani, Tanin, and then we would go to Mpumalanga, and from there on then we would go to Joburg. It was less risky. Just before the taxi rank, one of the guys then said that we should go to Messina, to this other location there in Messina, because he had this other friend of his who had a vehicle that we could use. He said that it is quite easy for us to use a private car than for us to use a taxi, because taxis are always stopped by the police at all the times. But as for the private vehicles, maybe we can be lucky and we can reach Joburg without getting arrested. So we then went to that location in Messina, and when we arrived at that place, I saw a lot of cars that had GP number plates, and I said, these cars, they belong to the Malaichas. Are we not going to get in trouble? Because I know how the Malaicha operate. He will tell you a certain price when you are still in Messina, a very low price, so much that you will get into their vehicles and then they will transport you just before Joburg. The situation will change and then they will charge you so much that you won't be able to afford. Later on, when we arrived at that house, at the location in Messina, we were taken indoors, and then that was when the robbing started to take place. They took everything that we had, our little phones, the money that we had, and they kicked us out. I did not even know what to do anymore. That was when I met this other truck driver, explained my situation to him. He told me that he had came to drop some potatoes in Messina, and at the farm where he was working, I could easily get a job. So I got onto his truck, and then we went to the place where he was working on that farm. I then started working on that farm. I quickly looked for any Pentecostal church that was nearby, and I started going to church. At church, there was someone who helped me to get a job, and I started staying in the location. So whilst I was staying in the location, there was this other friend of mine. We went to the same school. He had already made it here in South Africa. It then happened that he started dating this other woman who was staying in the same location where I was staying as well. One day I got so hungry. During those days, things were so tough. I would only buy about a loaf of bread, and then I would eat the bread. That was all that I could afford. So with this guy, this is the way that we met. I felt hungry and I said, let me go to the spaza shop so that I can buy some bread and eat and sleep, since I was not working constantly. When I got out, as I was walking to the spaza shop, that was when I saw a very beautiful car that stopped. I got scared that the car had stopped for me, and when the window was rolled down, that was when I saw my friend. I was shocked, and he was shocked as well, and he said, you were staying here? And I said, yes. He then told me that there was this other lady that he was dating. We went to my place, and he saw at the place where I was staying that it was not a nice place, and he said that he wanted to make a plan for me. After we had met the woman that he was dating, that was when he said he wanted to show me his place. When we arrived at his house, I was shocked that there were Zimbabwean people that were enjoying life like the way that he was enjoying. He had a very beautiful house, and he said that he was willing to offer me a job. And I said, if you can, please do so, because as for my landlord, I have been owing him rent money, and there is no way I can ever get that money to repay him. So if you have a place where I can stay, even tonight, I am willing to leave the location, but I can only leave at night. I will have to run away because I am owing my landlord. I was so broke at that time. He then went with me to his scrapyard because he was in that business, and then I started working there. Whilst I was working there, he would regularly call me. He had this habit of just picking me up and going with me to his place, and then he will say, I want you to slaughter this goat because they are important people that are supposed to visit me. So we are going to have a braai. Me and my friends, we are going to have a braai, and then he would return me back to the workshop where I was working. So at all the times, he made sure that before his business partners will come to attend the braai, he would have taken me back to the workshop. Then there was this other day when he informed me that there were important people that were going to come, and he wanted to connect me to his business partners. He said that he was going to buy some clothes for me that I was supposed to wear. He then gave me those clothes that are worn by Muslim men. And when I protested and I said, but I am a Christian and I do not want to throw away my religion simply because I have to meet your business partners, why am I supposed to wear as if I am a Muslim man? And they said, no, you do not know these people. Don't you know that those that are Muslims, when they are doing their business dealings, they expect you to respect their culture. And this is the way that you can respect their culture, by wearing the same clothes that they wear, by respecting their religion. He taught me the things that I was supposed to say, things that I was not supposed to say in front of his friends that were Muslim. So we ended up meeting with those guys. Some of them, they were from Malawi as well as Nigeria. And then the party began after slaughtering that goat. So then he told me that I was supposed to have some women that will be with me, because those guys, when they came, each one of them had 3 women that were attending to him. And he said, how many do you want? I did not know what to say. He gave me his phone and he started showing me some pictures of beautiful South African women. And he said, from all of these pictures that you are looking at, what you are supposed to do is that mark all the women that you want to be with, at least 3 or 4, and then resend it on my chat. And then he left me with his phone. I started looking at those beautiful South African women that were going to be paid so that they can be with me. And then I selected, and then I gave him the phone, and he said, okay. Within a very short period of time, those women, they came, and I was called inside to this other bedroom, and they were so beautiful. I had never had 3 women at the same time that were as beautiful as they were. They told me to relax, for they had been paid already. They were there to please me, to do whatever that I wanted with their bodies, and they were willing to be submissive to me. So me and those women, we slept together. After we had slept together, that was when I went out Because of the beautiful women that I had in that moment, I told myself that it does not even matter that there is a God in heaven. All that I wanted to enjoy, I just wanted to enjoy the moment. Those women made me to drink as much alcohol as I could. I was really drunk. Even those guys that were there with their women, they were drunk. Everyone was just drunk. I slept, and then around 2 a.m., that was when my friend woke me up. When I woke up, Brother Nashi, I found out that I was sleeping on top of an altar. It was more of a table, and I was sleeping on top of that altar. I was completely naked. And then those men as well, they were naked as well. They were having an orgy, men to men. They were sleeping with each other. I got so scared when my friend told me that I was supposed to participate in that orgy, sleeping with those men as well. I really do not know what happened, because as I was watching those men that were having sexual intercourse with each other, they are women that they had slept with. They were lying all over the place. They were drunk as if they had been drugged. There was another one as well who was sleeping on another altar, but she was dead asleep. And I had to participate. When I was watching those men as they were sleeping with each other, I then saw that these men, they no longer had the bodies of a normal man, but they started to grow breasts as well as hips, as if they were women. The only thing that that remained on their bodies were their private parts. In a very weird way, I felt like I wanted to sleep with those men, with the way that their bodies had changed and became like women, but still with a man's private part still hanging between their legs. I got up from the altar and I started touching each one of them, and they gathered and they surrounded themselves around me as we started to have that orgy. It happened. Those men, they slept with me, I slept with them. Early morning, when I woke up, when I was now sober, I felt so much pain like I had never felt in my entire life. Even when I went to the bathroom to relieve myself, I felt so much pain on my back, because that was where they had been penetrating me. When I woke up the next day, I could not even function properly, because down there where they had been sleeping with me, it was so painful. When I would urinate, I would feel so much pain. Even when I tried to poop, I had never felt so much pain in my entire life. That was when my friend told me that there was something else that was supposed to be done. There was a sacrifice that I had to perform in order to be admitted into the cult, so that I can start to have those business connections and also to be helped by the cult. There was a god that was brought before me, and then I was given an axe, and I was told that I had to slaughter that god in the most horrific and the most painful way like ever. I said, like how? That was when I was taken to a workbench. It was a metallic workbench, and then we lifted the god and we placed that god on that metallic bench, and on that metallic table there was a vice grip, and we held the god, and then we placed the god's head on the vice grip, and we started to tighten the vice grip. And then I was told that I was supposed to slaughter that god in the most horrific and painful way. The way that this god was going to die, that was the way that my mother will also have experienced a very painful death. At that time, I did not even know that this was part of that ritual that I was performing. That axe was handed down to me when I wanted to strike that god that was lying on top of that metallic table held by that vice grip. I wanted to slaughter it as quickly as possible. I wanted to hit it right on the back of its neck so that it can die instantly. The man said, "No, you are not supposed to do that. It has to die slowly." And then I started by cutting its tail. It was very painful for the god to witness an animal helpless, feeling so much pain. I hit it by its tail, and then the tail broke off. I was not yet done giving so much pain to this god. Using that axe, I started breaking off its legs, and then breaking off its back, and then finally I slaughtered the goat by hitting it on the back of its neck. Then it died. After that goat had died, that was when I was told that the way that this goat had died, that was the same way that my own mother was going to die. I panicked and I said, how so? Did I not perform the sacrifice that you required me to perform? Such a terrible sacrifice of giving so much pain to an innocent animal? And then that man looked at me and he said, when you slaughtered this goat, did you feel any pain? Did you lose anything? For this is just an animal that is not related to you. Whether it lives or die, does it even concern you? Does it even matter to you that this animal died? Very soon you are going to forget about this animal. But the way a sacrifice is supposed to work is that you have to feel so much pain. Even the day that you are going to talk about the way that you became a ritualist, you are supposed to feel so much pain. You have to feel so much pain. That is the purpose of a sacrifice. You have to lose something that matters a lot to you. Therefore, you have to sacrifice your mother. And when I was told that my mother was supposed to die, just like how this god had died, I felt so much pain, but I was already part of that occultic club, and there was no way that I could refuse, and I wanted to become rich as my friend was. I was then told that I had to buy my mother a very beautiful white dress. This dress that I was going to buy for her, it had to be so expensive, like ridiculously expensive, and I had to give her as a gift. And I had to force her relatives after her death that she was supposed to wear that expensive dress that I had bought for her. And we were going to bury my mother whilst she was wearing that occultic dress that I had bought. I was informed that I had to return back to Zim, and that was what I did. I returned back to Zim with that occultic dress that I had bought for my mother. And then I told my mom that I wanted to see her wearing that beautiful dress that her son had bought for her. She got excited, and then she took that dress, not knowing that it meant that she was going to die. She was my sacrifice. She wore that dress, and indeed it was so beautiful. I returned back to South Africa just when my mother started to get so sick. Before she passed away, I was already here in South Africa. My mother died because of a terrible accident. One day she felt like she wanted to go to town, and then she got onto this other taxi. Whilst she was on that taxi, that was when that taxi had an accident with a truck. It had a head-on with the truck, and she was seated in front. Amongst all the people that were in that taxi, there were some that died hours later at the hospital, but my mom was the only one who passed away at the scene of the accident. So when that impact happened, I knew that my mother was about to die, for I had been told on that day that on this day your mother is going to die. I remember clearly the day that my mother passed away. I was at my friend's house, for he had told me that today is the day that your sacrifice is going to be accepted. Your mother has to die for you to become rich. I remember very well that I was all alone sitting by the balcony. He had given me some alcohol that I had to drink because the pain was so much, knowing that the woman that had given birth to me, she was about to die. I was drunk when it happened, when I had it, the impact, when I felt it, my mom passing away. The moment that my mother died in Zim, she appeared to me here in South Africa. I saw her. She was downstairs looking at me. I rushed to the place where my friend was, and I told him, and he said it had happened. When I informed him that I had seen the spirit, the ghost of my mother, that was when he gave me some charms, and he said, here, give me that glass of wine that you have there. I gave him the glass that had the alcohol. He sprinkled the charms into that glass, and then he handed it back to me, and he said, drink it, drink everything. Drink those charms mixed with alcohol so that you can be okay. That is what I did. And then I went to this other room and I locked myself up after he had told me that it was okay. I was not supposed to pretend as if I was a strong man, for I had lost my mother through the rituals that I had performed. It was okay, he said, for a man to cry after sacrificing his mother. I locked myself up and I started crying. I felt my mother's presence, but she could not enter into that room because she was being blocked by the charms that my friend had given to me. I no longer saw a spirit. This is the way that my mother died. She had the most painful death like ever, because by the time that me and my friend, we went to Zim together, for I was supposed to force my mother's relatives as well as my own relatives to allow me to at least have my mother buried in that expensive dress that I had bought for her, and that was still part of the rituals. When that impact happened, my mother's body parts were scattered all over the place. Everything had to be gathered together, even when we went to the mortuary, because my mom, she was at Parrenyatwa Hospital. That was where her body was being kept, in the mortuary. So when we arrived there, the women in our family, they were the ones who did the body viewing first. The body parts were gathered together and they just made her to wear the dress, even though her body parts were all over the place. Even when she was inside the coffin, when we were told to enter the mortuary room for the final body viewing, we as a family decided that we could not allow another body viewing to be done again because it was traumatic. So we only did the body viewing whilst we were still at the mortuary. I could even see that my mother's head was separated from the rest of her body. It was quite terrible, but I was happy because she was still wearing that dress as I had been instructed. My friend, he had taken me to Zim with his car because my friend, he has these spiritual powers and he can make anyone do things that they do not want to do. So when I was with him, when I told my mother's relatives that this was what I had decided, there was no one who could argue with me. We returned to South Africa and then we returned to Zim. At that time, we went and we took some soil from my mother's grave and we placed it inside a bottle, and then we went with that bottle that contained my mother's soil that we had taken from her grave and we threw it into the ocean. This we did so that a spirit can forever be trapped in the sea. If it ever happens that my mother's relatives would want to go and consult, they will never be able to communicate with my mother's spirit, for how can they communicate with her spirit since her spirit is lost at sea? The cult also gave me a South African woman who was quite young, who was supposed to keep me company, even though she did not know that we were ritualists. She was hired to keep me company. My friend went on a vacation, for I was feeling very sad. They wanted me to be all by myself, thinking about the sacrifice that I had done, thinking about what had happened. So that woman kept me busy until my friend came back again. We had a braai as well. As part of the cult, they had organized a braai for me. Those men, the Muslim men, they came back and then we had a party, but this party, it was different. There were no women. Even the way that we were drinking alcohol, they said that we needed to drink alcohol respectfully and we were honoring the life that I had offered to the cult, my mother's life. After that, that was when I started to make money. Currently, there is a woman that I am staying with, that I am dating, even though I am dating other women as well. But there is something about this woman. She is a humble woman. She is the one that reminds me that I am still a human, because when I performed these rituals, I felt my heart becoming more like a stone, hard like a rock, and there are evil things that I have done against other people. This woman, I honestly wanted to use her, but when I started dating her, I felt so sorry for her. What pains me the most about this woman is that she was once married and then she was kicked out of her marriage because she could not conceive. So she is saying that she wants a baby, but I cannot allow her to have a baby, for that is not supposed to happen, because it happens, then it means that I am going to lose the wealth that I have after I had sacrificed my mother. I really do not know. Sometimes I feel like I have to be open with her, but I do not want to hurt her because of the way that she is so innocent and humble. These are the rituals that I did, and I am part of an occultic club. Dear listeners, right there was a brief narration of a message that I received, hoping that you were able to understand the confession. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world.